Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first installment of the CWF training series. My name is Joe Flaherty. I'm the Custom Wholesale VP of Sales. And one of these boxes is Chris McFarland. He heads up our Pro Products division. He's also going to moderate our question and answer period at the end. And in two of the Hollywood squares is Kevin Brophy of American Sanders and Roy Cox of American Sanders. They're going to be our presenters today, and they'll get started shortly. First, I hope this finds you all safe and healthy. It's a crazy, scary time. In some parts of our market, it's scary. In some parts of our market, I know it's frustrating. In my house, it's both scary and frustrating, depending on who you're talking to. Right now, scary is winning, and I get to come and work. But Custom Wholesale is here to help in any way we can, any way that's appropriate. We remain open and operational. We're fully staffed. We're keeping our people safe. We're going to keep you safe in our deliveries, job site deliveries, and customer pickups. Like many of you, this forced pause button has given us a chance to reflect on a lot of things. And what we're choosing to do is implement the things we always knew we should do, but used either time or possibly workload as the built-in excuse why we didn't get it done. This training series is something that we've always wanted to do, something we knew we could do, and we knew we could do it well. One, because of our expertise, but we also had great support and resources with our vendors and associations. So what we're going to be doing from here on until we run out of content, and I doubt we'll run out of content, is to offer weekly and then in time more spread out training sessions on a wide range of topics. Some will be very general and will be appropriate for all customers. Some might be highly technical, targeted at a specific segment like installers, learning how to wire brush an unfinished floor or doing floor leveling. The formats will be varied. This format is going to be very unique today. It's going to be a interview style format. Next week will be more of your traditional presentation format. And then soon we'll be doing some live demos. But common to all of the training seminars will be a live Q&A at the end. Today, we'll be doing, you all will be muted, and you have an opportunity to type in any question that you like throughout any point in the presentation or at the end. If we can respond to it immediately, we will reply back to you, and you'll have a chance to see the answers in the little question part of your app. But you'll all be muted, and we will read all questions at the end. This session is recorded. All sessions will be recorded, and we're going to post that to our CWF videos channel on YouTube. So in case you have a peer that didn't get a chance to see it, or you dozed off at some point in time, you can go back and check it out. Regarding today's presentation, when we're thinking about these things, I didn't want a product specific or something that would appear to be a product pitch until much later down in the series, but this product kind of forced its way to the front. It's clearly an item that is appropriate for what we're going through in our lives today. I think it's a product that you can certainly use in your showrooms. For the more savvy marketers out there, I think you'll probably end up rolling this into your marketing strategies. And in some cases, it might be able to reclassify your business in such a way where you can get opened a lot earlier than other flooring locations. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kevin Brophy. He's the Southeast Sales Manager for American Sanders. Kevin?
How's it going, guys? Thanks, Joe. Very well said. Like Joe said, I'm Kevin Brophy. I am the American Sanders Southeast Sales Manager. And today with me, I have my product manager who is on screen right next to me. His name is Roy Cox. Roy, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Kevin. Like you said, my name is Roy Cox. I've been with American Sanders and Pioneer Clips now for a little over 4 years. Over 20 years in product management experience, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So Roy, today we're going to talk about Pioneer Clips. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Pioneer Clips, who they are, what they specialize in? Go ahead.
Sure. So you guys all know us as American Sanders. American Sanders, the brand and product line, was actually purchased by Pioneer Clips now, about 5 or 6 years ago. And Pioneer Clips has been a leader in the Jansan and cleaning side of our world now for over 40 years. So, hard floor coatings, strippers, cleaners, and importantly for today, disinfectants.
Okay, so now in terms of Pioneer Clips, you said that they are, they bought out American Sanders a couple years back. Now, are all Pioneer Clips and American Sanders products made in the same facility? How does that work?
They are. We're proudly American made. Pioneer Clips products and chemicals, machines and chemicals, American Sanders machines and chemicals are all made in our facility in Sparta, North Carolina. There's a lot that can be frustrating about being in a factory in the foothills of North Carolina, but when you're trying to hide from a virus, it's pretty nice. We're still up and fully running and providing to our customers.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about this disinfectant. The disinfectant goes by it's called Nova. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so the disinfectant, does it protect you from coronavirus?
Yes, Nova is one of the disinfectants, the active ingredient, the key disinfectant in Nova is on the EPA list N for being effective against the coronavirus.
Okay, awesome. So I guess that would bring a lot of people's questions, I can imagine right now. What would the proper procedure be to disinfect your hardwood floor with Nova?
Sure. So to start with, you're going to purchase Nova in a concentrate. So you'll get a gallon of Nova. It's a 1:32 concentration. So that means when to get it to at use, you put 1 ounce of Nova per quart of water. So to clean your floor, first you start off by doing a basic cleaning, get all the loose soils or any of that stuff up off the floor. You basically clean the floor as you would normally, and then you want to apply the Nova. You can do that with a mop bucket and a mop. You can do it with a sponge. You can do it. My preferred method when you're talking about a residential application is a squirt bottle, a quart squirt bottle, and a microfiber mop. If you're working in a bigger space, you could use a pump up sprayer. So in the area that you're working, you wet the floor, and by wet I don't mean soak. I mean damp spray the floor, and then you want to use, like I say, when I'm using a squirt bottle, I squirt it on the floor and then use the microfiber mop to mop that out. The key is to get 100% coverage, and so you want to make sure you get into all the trims and the corners and all of that. That treatment needs to stay wet for at least 10 minutes. That's the key to effectively disinfecting. So maybe before you start, maybe you want to turn off the air conditioning, close the windows. Anything that creates an airflow, as you know, speeds up the drying process. So you want to shut all that down. Nova's not necessarily quick drying, so it doesn't take much to keep it wet for 10 minutes. But work in a space that is reachable. Maybe that's one room at a time, maybe depending on the size of the room, maybe it's half a room, but so that you can see the whole area that you've wet. And if something looks like it's starting to dry out, just give it another squirt, give it another wipe, and just keep it damp for that 10-minute period.
Okay, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, that's all right. Once that space is past its 10-minute mark, you move on to the next and just kind of work your way through the house.
So working from room to room would kind of be ideal, especially like if you started, say, in your kitchen where you have, the front of your refrigerator might be blowing out some warm air. So those are, by working in a small room, it's going to allow you to keep a better eye on certain variables like that, correct?
That's it. Yep.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing is when you're disinfecting, you don't have to worry about lap lines or crossing over the area you've been before. You can just blend it in as you go.
You're just worried about getting the product on the floor, making sure it stays damp for that 10 minutes, and then after that 10 minutes, you just let it kind of dry off on its own. correct?
Yep.
Okay, so after you use, so let's just say I did my whole house, everything's been damp for 10 minutes, I let everything dry. What would be my next step after that? What would be my next course of action?
So then the next step that we recommend is that you come behind that with a course of timber clean. Timber clean is our standard wood floor cleaner. And the reason you're doing that is to invariably you've cleaned the floor, but then you've wiped it with a microfiber. That you may have some streakies or something like that. With timber clean, not only are you giving it a second wipe, but you're bringing that pop back to the floor.
Okay. So I guess my next question would be, if I didn't do that timber clean step after the fact, could that potentially cause any problems for me down the road if I just kept on reusing the disinfectant over and over and over again without wiping it up after the fact? Would that have any adverse effect on the finish?
No, it won't. We've done testing where we put course after course after course of the disinfectant on the floor, up to 20 treatments in a row, and it didn't affect the finish that was on the floor, and it didn't affect the ability to recoat after that. It didn't create some sort of a layer that was going to affect future adhesion. What we did see was after 20 treatments, you did see a slight decrease in gloss. The nice thing was, even after those 20 treatments, we came back and hit it with timber clean, and it popped right back to where, to the original gloss levels. So there is no long-term detriment to using the disinfectant either correctly or incorrectly. But you want to leave there with a nice shiny floor, and so that's why we hit it with timber clean.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess my next question would be, if somebody's using this on their floor, and let's say you walk in their house and they have a little terrazzo or tile entranceway, or a little mud room, or maybe their kitchen has tile floors instead of wood, would they be able to use Nova on those products as well, or would it be detrimental to do that?
No, it's perfect. That's actually the side of the business where Nova was created. So it's effective on any hard surfaces. We actually had to go back and do additional testing on wood to make sure that there wasn't any problem there. But if you're on terrazzo or tile, that's its sweet spot for sure.
Okay, so then in theory, I guess this disinfectant could also probably be used in bathrooms and kitchen countertops and things like that, correct?
That's correct. Any hard surface. Now you do want to be careful on a surface like a kitchen countertop where there's going to be food contact. You can use Nova there, but the directions call for, if you're doing a food contact surface, after you do the Nova, come back with a wet water rinse, and then you're good to go.
Good to go. Awesome. Okay. So, okay, let me see here. Some of the other questions I may have. Do we have any literature with a step-by-step process that we can give to people, whether it be on the internet, a PDF or a printout, so that they have a step-by-step process as how Nova should be used properly?
Yeah, we do, and it's available, and I think it's actually attached in this call. And if you see the little handouts drop down there in your GoToMeeting box, that handout's right there.
Awesome. Okay, so now before you had mentioned a 10-minute lead time, is that kind of an industry standard with disinfectants, or where did that come from?
Yeah, so it really kind of depends on the class of disinfectant. That 10 minutes is specified by the EPA. That is the standardized test that they do. I get the question sometimes, well, if I only wait 5 minutes, does that mean it's half good? And it's more of a go no go. They don't check it to see how it's going along the way. The test is 10 minutes. And so, to make sure that you're getting the effectiveness that it's approved for, you need to get that 10-minute wet time.
Okay, so I guess my next question would be, let's say I was a contractor and I was doing a sand and finish for a customer in their home, and they wanted me to do a disinfecting after I just put refinished their brand new floors. how long after I put my last coat down would I be able to do this disinfecting process?
So our recommendation would be to go ahead and wait the 7 days to get full cure on your floor before you come back and do the disinfecting. I mean, obviously, you're moving furniture in and some of those things after 3 or 4 days, and it probably would be okay then. But just to make sure, depending on the scrubbing method that you're using or that sort of thing, in terms of a safe recommendation, we said let's go ahead and get that full cure.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So we're in here talking about disinfectant a little bit. I guess we could talk about some pricing. So what is the price of Nova?
Yeah, so that's the beautiful thing is, for this disinfecting, right now, we and Consolidated are offering a deal of an $80 per case delivered to you. And that $80, that's 4 1-gallon bottles. And so, once you do the math backwards to the gallon price and then dilute it down, it actually is only costing you about 15 cents a quart for the disinfectant to do this job. You're going to follow that with Timber Clean, and that at dilution rate, the cost is about 75 to 80 cents per quart. So for under $1, you've got your raw materials, under $1 worth of chemicals and a microfiber mop, and you've got what you need to go in and do this service.
Wow, that's awesome. So I guess some other questions would be, that obviously we're running that deal through CWF. Some other questions would be, are there any other additional products that you would recommend, to people in these trying times where, cleanliness is obviously becoming more and more important? So would there be any other product that you could potentially recommend to a homeowner or to a contractor that they could use to, inform their customer of steps that manufacturers like us are taking?
Yeah, so we recently announced that we have added an antimicrobial ingredient to all of our wood floor finishes, our entire TimberGuard product line. And so that component we call AMP, antimicrobial protection, and that helps to offer you protection against the growth of bacteria on your floor 24/7 for the life of the coating.
All right, so how does it do that, Roy? How does it protect you from, how does it do that?
Yeah, so the AMP ingredient actually attacks the bacteria kind of at the molecular level. It attacks the cell walls of the bacteria and inhibits them from growing and reproducing. Bacteria are actually fairly short-lived. If they can't eat and they can't reproduce, they die off very quickly. And so that's the strategy behind the AMP ingredient.
Okay, so for people that may be using, regular American Sanders, TimberGuard products now, can they expect to see any kind of difference in the finish in terms of how it flows out, how it lays out, how it feels, or anything like that, or is it just the same?
Yeah, it's made no difference in the look and feel of the finish. If you're a T-bar guy, it's going to feel just the same. If you roll your finish, it rolls beautifully. So yeah, adding this protection didn't change the usability of the material at all.
Okay, so you just kind of answered my next question for me, and with the AMP additive in the finish, there's no specific way to apply the finish then, right? Because like you just said, you're really not going to notice a difference. So is there any specific way that you do need to apply the finish with the AMP in it, or is it just daily, how you normally would?
Yeah, just how you normally would. The TimberGuard line is really flexible, and we've got people doing it every way you can imagine. But yeah, it works great.
Okay, so let's take it a step further. If I'm a homeowner and say I had my floors done, I don't know, 5 years ago, and they still look good, but I'm really interested in having this TimberGuard with AMP formula in there. Does it need to be a 3-coat system, or could I just have a contractor come in and do a screen and coat and put down, the top coat of, say, American Sanders TimberGuard Pro with AMP in it, and will that work just as well as opposed to having 3 coats of a product with AMP in it?
Yeah, works just as well. Just because as you can imagine, it's attacking the bacteria at the surface level, right? So as long as the last coat has the AMP material in it, you're getting that antimicrobial protection. So from a contractor standpoint, you can offer that as part of the benefits of your scrub and recoat system, is with 1 coat or maybe 2, depending on how deep your scratch is. You're delivering that protection.
Awesome. All right, great. So I guess in terms of how and when you could buy, I think we talked about that. CWF is running the deal, $80 a case delivered, and I believe it was $60 a case curbside pickup. I believe it's ready to buy now. There's one other question it just kind of hit me right now, Roy, that I'm curious about. With everybody some states are locked down, some counties are locked down, some aren't. Me using a EPA-backed SARS-CoV-2 disinfectant, does that, as a contractor, can that deem me as an essential employee, so that I could potentially get back to work? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question and a little tricky. What we've seen is that in most states, construction continues to be considered an essential trade. I know there are some, New York, Washington, where that's not the case. And I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna hesitate to try to give you an interpretation of all those local rules, just because they keep changing so much. So I would point you to your local authority, whether that's the governor's office or whatever, to get the details about whether or not that frees you up to get back to work.
Okay. I think at this time, I mean, unless there's anything else that you want to add, Roy, I think I would like to open it up for some questions. If anybody out there has some questions that they might want answered, I guess now would kind of be the time for that.
All right, guys, we have a couple questions. We have one that is Nova approved for both hard wax oil finish, such as Rubio Monocoat, or like UV cured oil finished on like a pre-finished hardwood?
That's a great question. I have not tested it on a hard wax coating. So I guess I would tell you, you may want to find a space to test that to be sure. The nice thing is it's a 1:32, so you're basically just spreading water. We haven't found a surface where it does any harm, but I can't tell you for sure that I've done testing on hard wax coatings.
So it's not been tested. So it would be test a spot. Yeah.
Right.
But on the pre-finish side, UV cured, it would be good. Correct, Roy?
Yeah, there should be no issues on the pre-finish.
Roy, a quick follow-up. Does it mean that it hasn't been tested, so it will work, you just don't know if it won't damage the floor?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be effective.
It will kill. You're not sure if it'll harm the finish. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So test a spot to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Start in a small corner in a closet or something like that. And just keep it damp for that 10 minutes, and then wipe it off with the timber clean and see if there's any adverse effect before you go ahead and do the whole job. That's what I would recommend.
And typically what you would see, in my experience, you might have to put you may have to re-oil, a maintenance coat or something like that, but test a spot for sure. The next question is, can it be used on natural stone?
Natural stone. I believe the answer there is yes. I think pretty well any hard surface, you're in good shape.
Okay. Were there any other questions? Okay, there's one that just came in. Okay, so okay, there were a couple. Hold on, there was a couple while I was asking those.
Do they need to
Is it
wear
only
PPE
effective?
while applying Nova?
I'm sorry,
So-
repeat.
Do they need to wear PPE while applying Nova?
Oh, good question. Not specifically. If you're spraying, you don't want to be spraying right next to your face and breathing that in necessarily. But there's no specific call out for PPE.
And then the other question is it only effective against bacteria or also viruses?
Great question. Yeah, Nova, the exciting thing of the day is that it's effective against SARS-CoV-2, right? But it's also a broad spectrum germicidal. So, it can kill everything from hepatitis B. It's also a bactericide, a fungicide, mildew stat, viruside. So, no, it's a broad range killer.
Okay. And then how do you address the question of liability?
Liability.
In terms of what, Chris? In terms of somebody disinfecting their house and then after they do the disinfectant, potentially catching the virus, or in terms of them using the disinfectant on the floor and having some kind of failure?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty broad question. The person that wrote it, if they could probably tighten that question up a little bit, but I mean, the way you said it, Kevin, that's probably both. If we could do that. I mean, if it damages the floor, I mean, I think we're all going to have to be careful of that because it's a water-based type product and we're putting water on a floor. If you soak a floor with anything, you got to be careful.
Absolutely.
And then, it's a 10-minute window. If you put water on floor for 10 minutes, it's not gonna kill the floor. We know this.
No, and yeah, and just for clarification, like what Roy said, it's not like we're making, a gallon bucket of this stuff and we're just dumping it on the floor and spreading it out. You want to pre-wet your microfiber pad that you're using, or your mop, whatever it may be. You want to pre-wet it, and then you're just spraying it on the floor and smoothing it out so it's just damp, barely damp, so that you don't have standing water, getting into the wood, because obviously that wouldn't be a good thing, right? So as long as you stick to the instructions and you stick to the proper ratio for how to properly dilute it, 1 ounce per 32 ounces of water, you should not have any issues. Correct, Roy?
That's right. Yeah, just wetting, not soaking. In terms of liability, in terms of, does this protect anybody from ever getting, COVID? Number one, you're disinfecting just the floor. So, the whole rest of the house and everybody in it that are potential sources, I suppose. And this is a treatment. So the minute you're done and somebody walks in from outside, the sanitary nature of the floor is compromised, right? So I think it would be very difficult to own any liability to source of the virus.
Yeah, it's a step in protecting somebody.
Right.
That is correct.
I think something that you also have to worry about, you're going in and you're sanitizing somebody's floor. You need to inspect that floor because this is on a pre-finished surface that you're supposed to be protecting, especially if it's wood. I think you have to inspect the floor, and it's a good time to inspect that floor and make sure that the finish is covering that floor too. If it's a worn surface and you start to try to cover that floor and it's around their kitchen table or around something that's constantly pulled in and out and that finish is gone, you need to make sure that it's covered. If it's not, and you start to apply more than just a mist of spray, you could see some damage to a floor, and you need to point that out to your customer and say, look, this needs to be repaired. We're going to have to skip this area. It can't be saturated with water. You know, you need to, this is an area of compromise, and you need to do something about it. And note it
That's
on
exactly
some
right.
paperwork. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is like you said, Chris. It was very well said that this is a step towards disinfecting any potential threat that may have been on your floor previously, and being able for you to walk away confidently, knowing after you do this disinfecting process that you have a clean and disinfected floor. In addition to that, you know, to expand on what you also just said, it's a great time for contractors to, like you said, inspect the floor before they do anything to any customer's floor, and potentially, you know, walk through the entire house with the homeowner and address any additional needs that that homeowner may have or need.
All right.
I know that the questions have been focused, or these answers have been focused on wood floor and the liability for wood floor, but I think we need to reiterate. I mean, this item is great for vinyl. It's great for laminate. It's great for porcelain countertops. There's a couple questions about it being okay for vinyl. This is a perfect product for vinyl, I think. And another question, a question came up since this is also good for other surfaces besides flooring. How about stainless steel?
Yeah, it's fine on stainless steel. Again, with the caveat around food contact, you know, anywhere, if you're talking about a food contact surface, you've got to do a water rinse afterwards. But yeah, it is effective on stainless steel.
Let's see. Can this be used on a vinyl floor? So can it be used on a vinyl floor? Yes. And bacteria viruses was also for AMP additive. So the question for bacteria viruses was also for the AMP additive. The AMP is in the finish itself.
Right. And AMP is antimicrobial. It fights bacteria. It does not fight viruses. It's mostly around stain and odor causing bacteria.
So, like, what would be a good example of that? Like, would that be considered like staph or anything like that, Roy?
Yeah, staph, E. coli, that sort of bacterial. Yeah.
Okay.
Here's a good one. How far will a quart of diluted Nova cover?
Ah, great question. I've never done a job that big, if that tells you anything. But again, you're really just spritzing and spreading with a microfiber.
Yeah, every job is going to be a little bit different. Sorry, Roy. Every job is going to be a little bit different. I would imagine, you know, a factory finish floor or a tile, the product will probably go a little bit further because that surface isn't going to be as porous as a site finish floor, potentially that's got a couple of years of wear on it, something along those lines. But every job is going to vary, and that's why we encourage you to go by room by room procedure. So this way it allows you to really keep your eye on a smaller space as opposed to spritzing the whole house and then trying to make sure the whole house is staying damp. And when you go from a room to room basis, it makes it a lot easier for you to keep an eye on you know, a smaller area to make sure you're letting it stay damp and can sit for that 10 minutes.
But on the low end, a gallon will create 32 gallons of product, right? Once it's diluted, and let's say a diluted gallon may cover 500 feet, 1,000 feet.
Yeah, probably closer to 1,000.
So a diluted gallon would cover about 750 to 1,000 feet.
A diluted gallon, possibly. It might be more than that. Yeah.
Okay.
So on the liability question of earlier, They said in terms of a dealer disinfecting a customer's floor, then they get sick, etc. is what they were saying. But there's
Yeah,
nothing
so
you can really do.
yeah, exactly. That's really beyond your control because you're only offering a service to them to disinfect their floor. So if there was already a pre-existing condition, before you got there, or if somebody came in contact with them after, even going to the grocery store or something, I mean, you're not going to be liable for that because it's beyond your control. You're coming in providing them a service, a disinfecting service, in addition to anything else that you may or may not do on that job site or in that person's home, and that's it.
They said we covered it. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure we covered it. And then there's a question, and it says, so is this something that should be used constantly while there is a possibility of having your home infected? So I guess how often should the floor be disinfected?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I guess it really depends on the traffic, right? If you're 100% locked down, quarantined, you do it once, you're covered, right? It doesn't provide any extended protection. It'll kill what's there. So if you've got traffic coming through the house, you may want to do it repeatedly on some interval. If you're completely locked down and there's no way of reintroduction, you do it once, you're probably covered.
All right. All right. Well, does anybody have any more questions? I think we've covered them all. So we've gone over the specials that we have. There is inventory. We're going to get it run through the system. Material came in today.
Awesome.
And we're going to run the inventory down from Atlanta. So it'll be down in Jacksonville hopefully tomorrow. And we'll run it through the system. So all the branches will have it first of next week. Just let us know if you need any, and it should be easy enough to get plenty as soon as we run out of this. I don't think you guys have any problem making more, right?
The answer is no. It hasn't always been the case. As you can imagine, the virus-side business has exploded. And so we've switched machinery over to being dedicated onto this product so that we can be sure that it's available.
Okay. So next week we have our scheduled subfloor prep and leveling, and we look forward to having everybody sign up, and we appreciate you guys coming and meeting with us today. And Kevin and Roy, we appreciate you guys coming and talking to us, and we appreciate everything you guys have given us, and we look forward to doing something else with you guys at a later time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, guys.
All right.